Week 0 is now in the rear view mirror. That's right, Week 0, just like that. Alex Guest has come and it's gone very quickly. Week number 2 of the Saturday morning scramble. So good to be with you this morning as we are live at Ingles. I'm Cole Bryson. He's Alex Guest. We are in the big city of TR this morning. Alex, doesn't get any bigger than TR 1500 Gear Highway and Travelers Rest. If you're in the TR area, more than welcome to come by, hang out with us. We had some great breakfast here at Ingles a few moments ago. Didn't even know they had breakfast. Did you know that?
No.
Gravy biscuit, bacon,
grits,
hash
bacon,
brown,
yeah.
grits, man, you name it. Can't beat that. Well, I'll tell you what, there was nothing that happened last night. There were no games to talk about. I don't know for 2 hours a day how we're going to fill 2 hours of sports radio. I'm kidding. A ton to get to. Hard to find a place to even start. We will talk to the head football coach of the Travelers Rest. Mascot?
Devil
Dogs.
Only one in the nation.
Is that right?
That's what I hear.
Devil Dogs coming up at 9 o'clock this morning here on location at Ingles. So we'll talk to Chris Goodman here in person. So glad to have you along. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, 97.1 Spartanburg, 97.7 FM in Greenville. Also on the free Odyssey app. Week 0, Alex, sometimes you have teams play other teams that just aren't particularly good. However, it didn't seem like that was the case last night. We'll get to the scores, but first, let's start with a game that really surprised me. And I know that South Point may not be what they used to be, Alex, but Spartanburg South Point's where I want to start this morning. Spartanburg goes on the road last night. Mark Hodge and the Vikings battling a lot of injuries. Go into that game, their quarterback's out. They've got a guy who's gotten first-team reps, obviously, in practice, but is not T.J. Johnson, right? Who's not the guy they had slated to start the season. They trail early in the game, and Will Love just kicks a game-winning field goal after I think he'd already kicked the 51 or 52-yarder earlier in the game. Kicks a game-winning field goal, a chip shot for him to win it late in the game. But I had South Point winning that game last night. I got that one wrong, and we'll get to our records. But what a win for Spartanburg and Mark Hodge last night.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I had South Point as well. I really felt like South Point was going to be the better team going into that game. You mentioned Spartanburg with the injuries and just kind of everything going on and around with the Spartanburg program early in the season. That's not to say they're not going to be improved once those injuries kind of heal and those players get back. But I definitely thought South Point was going to win it. And, it ended up being a 1-point game,
Sure.
But Spartanburg just found a way to find that horseshoe, you might say.
Well, they have a fantastic kicker, and if you let Spartanburg in 2024 hang around, they'll make you pay with Will Love. 26-25 was the final last night, so the Spartanburg Vikings go on the road and knock off South Point in a big opening matchup for both of those teams. It does continue to get tough for Spartanburg as they play Dutch Fork. They go to Dutch Fork, I believe. No. It's Dutch Fork comes to their house because they won the Dutch Fork last year and won.
Yep.
Spartanburg will host Dutch Fork next week. So a tough few weeks for Spartanburg in terms of their opponents. We'll see how the injury bug, if it gets any better. But a win. You and I saw them last Saturday morning after the scramble. We went over to Broome and watched them a little bit in the scrimmage. And last night, just a huge win for those guys. And congratulations to Mark Hodge and the Spartanburg Vikings for getting that done. Again, 30 games in our coverage area this weekend that we have to follow, and we're going to try our best to get to all of them. If you were at a game last night, you can text the show, call the show, get your thoughts in there. The text line's always open. 71307 is the way you can start the text, or excuse me, that's the way you can text into the show. Just start your text with the word fan. Again, that's 71307. Phone lines are always open as well, unless we have a guest on, obviously. 844-FAN-PHONE. That's 844-326-3663. Alex, let's get to the scores last night for those who have just tuned in. I know there's a lot of them, but here is Alex Guest with last night's Week 0 scores.
Let's do it. You mentioned a lot of good games, and one right off the bat. Pickens defeats easily 47-41. Dorman and Greenville went down to the wire, 42-35. Dorman a winner there. Hillcrest knocks off Lawrence 16-0.
Wow.
Jail Man, a big winner over Midland Valley, 56-0. And Riverside, a 39-20 winner over Malden last night. A game that you were on the call last night, Cole. 19-16, TL Hanna defeats Burns. Boiling Springs, a big winner over Greer, 43-0. Eastside, 41-0 over Southside. And the one we just mentioned and talked about, Spartanburg, 26-25 over South Point. We'll hear from him later in the show, but Chris Goodman's TR team got a 14-7 win over Wade Hampton last night. Emerald, 14-6 winners over 96. The game that I was at last night, Fountain Inn, a nice come-from-behind win, 42-35 over, or 42-34 over Liberty, rather. Wren blanks Palmetto, 35-0. Chapman falls to Daniel, 41-21 final in that game. Another 1-point victory, Seneca, 35-34 over Powdersville. Belton Honeypath, a big winner over Broome, 45-14. Saluda defeats Crescent, 20-6. Pendleton, 47-21 winners over Chesney. Walhalla, 20-14 over Landrum. West Oak knocks off First Flight, North Carolina, 12-6. Christchurch goes down to Hammond. They fall to the Skyhawks of Hammond, 56-28 final in that game. Abbeville, a big winner over Southside Christian, 41-7. St. Joseph's defeats Cardinal Newman, 40-30. Newberry knocks off Union County, 40-14. Woodruff, 40-36 winners over Clinton. Blacksburg, a big winner over Ware Shoals, 44-28. And Greenwood Christian knocks off Calhoun Falls, 48-6.
How about that? Those are your scores from last night's games. No better high school football coverage than the Saturday morning scramble. So good to have all of the scores from last night. So good to actually have games to talk about. And, man, we had the show last week leading up to the season, Alex. You and I, we can give our predictions on who will do what and who will be good. But until you get out there at week 0 and actually line them up, you just don't know fully about certain teams. Obviously, we'll get into the game that I was at last night, Burns TL Hanna. As you mentioned, you were at Fountain Inn. Congratulations to them for a come-behind win. Very impressive. And I tell you what, man, a lot to get to. I was very, very impressed with Boiling Springs. Let's get there because we do have a text about Boiling Springs that I want to get to in just a few seconds. But, Alex, I had Boiling Springs winning over Greer last night. I thought they would take care of business, and they did just that. They absolutely steamrolled the Yellow Jackets of Greer last night. That was probably, like I said, I thought they would win, but that was just probably as dominating as a performance as you'll see in week 0. Boiling Springs just all over Greer, and what a statement win, 43-0. We knew Boiling Springs' offense was going to be good with Lincoln Husky, but their defense last night against a Greer team that we've heard some good things about, right? Blanks Greer. I think Boiling Springs last night, in my opinion, made a statement and said, hey, we're here in 2024. We can play with the best of the best. And I know Greer's not the best of the best, but we're ready for the best of the best. And I think what Boiling Springs did last night, Alex, was show that, hey, we're here this year.
Yeah, well, and I mean, Greer may not be the best of the best, but Greer is always in the discussion come into the season. So I was a bit surprised to see that score. I went against the grain on our picks. You picked Boiling Springs. I didn't want to just go down the list and have the same exact picks that you had because what's the fun in that? So I decided, I'll pick Greer in this one. But I was very much
dumb,
surprised. Yeah, that probably was. I mean, hindsight's 20/20. But I was very surprised to see Boiling Springs just absolutely beat up on Greer the way they did.
I've said all offseason. I said it yesterday on Wire to Wire, 4 o'clock segment. Boiling Springs is going to be for real in 2024. They're going to be a team that competes in the region. They really are. Texter chimes in on the text line, which you can do on the Saturday morning scramble. 279 says, Cole, went to Bulldog Stadium last night. We're going to see Lincoln Husky playing on Saturday evenings soon. That kid is incredible, all caps, and a joy to watch. Hashtag Go Dogs. We appreciate you texting into the show, texter, just as that texter did. If you were at a game last night, you can let us know what you saw as well, what you liked, what you didn't like. Boiling Springs opening the season of 2024 with a statement win over Greer. They're going to have a few wins like that, in my opinion, Alex, in the next few weeks. We'll get into their next few opponents a little bit later in the program. But I think what's interesting about Boiling Springs is this year, you look at what their offense is capable of doing and putting up some serious points with their defense as well, shutting out Greer. That region that Boiling Springs is in Region 2-5A, we all know how tough it is, Alex. But what's fascinating is, you and I have talked about it, I think Boiling Springs and Gaffney will be fighting for that 1 and 2 spot in the region. And what's so crazy is they play week 1 of region. So just a few weeks, you're going to see these teams go at it at Boiling Springs. And not to overlook the other opponents, but that game is just going to get much more anticipated every single week. And both teams, in my opinion, will be undefeated going into it early in the season. First region game of the year. That'll be a phenomenal way to open the region between two really good teams.
Yeah, absolutely. And you talk about that. I mean, a month from now,
Is that what it is?
We're talking about that game. That's a September 20th game at Boiling Springs, like you mentioned. And here's the thing. If you're Gaffney, you got to be careful going into that game, because Gaffney originally had set up the bye week going into the region. Take it how you will, call it what you want, some scheduling issues with their week 0 opponent.
What you're trying to say is Crest backed out.
Yeah, there we go. Call it what you want. But so Gaffney actually ends up with a week 3 game now, and Boiling Springs has that week 3 bye. So what's going to help? Is Boiling Springs having the week off going into that game going to help, or is Gaffney actually having some live action in week 3 going to help?
And again, still a few weeks until we get to it, but man, you can't help but circle that one on the schedule, because that one's going to be phenomenal here in just a few weeks. Get in on the conversation. High school football lives here on the Saturday Morning Scramble. Real quickly, before we run the break, Alex, let's go down the list. Let's look at Dorman Greenville last night. Dorman wins the game, starts the season 1-0, 42-35 over Greenville. This one was at Dorman. Dorman led. Greenville made a surging effort to come back late in this game, brought it within 1 touchdown. Greenville quarterback, I heard very good things about last night. However, Jabo Shaw in his first game ever at Greenville, unable to knock off Dorman. I did have Dorman winning, but I'll tell you what surprised me about this one was the firepower, the amount of points that they put up last night at Cavalier Stadium. That was impressive. 42 points in week 0.
Yeah, I mean, it was 28-7 at the half is what it was. So, I mean, you're right, Cole. An absolute, it was a clinic put on by both teams.
Sure,
really, if you look at it, and Greenville had a 21-point third quarter. Their defense really came out and was very stout in the second half. But when you're down 28-7 at the half, it's really difficult to overcome that mountain and get to the other side of it and get that win. But, hey, like you mentioned, Jabo Shaw, first-year head coach for Greenville, I think he's headed in the right direction.
I think so. It's going to take time. Obviously, Greenville's a team that lost a lot from last year's team and really the last 2 years' team. They've had some D1 talent on that team that's playing at D1 schools. You can look at Clemson, for example, Alex, but they've had some dudes the last few years, and graduations hit them a little hard. It'll take Jabo some time, but I do think that they're in good hands with him. They come back home, does Greenville next week, and they will host Riverside here in week 1. So that'll be an interesting matchup. But congratulations to Jake Morris and the Dorman Cavaliers. They say when you come on the Saturday Scramble one Saturday, the next Friday, it's good juju.
Yeah.
You're going to win the next game. Jake Morris proved that last night. We're 1-0 on the season.
Yeah.
Hopefully we don't jinx that today with Chris Goodman at TR. I'm not sure who TR has next week.
They're at Emerald next week, so
maybe
might
2-0. I'm telling you, that's what you get, coaches. You come on the Saturday Scramble, the next week you win. You score 42 points.
Yeah.
Just to be quite frank with you. That's how it works. So good to be with you this morning. I'm Cole Bryson. He's Alex Guest. It is the Saturday Scramble each and every Saturday morning during high school football season, 8 to 10 a.m. on the Fan, Upstate, 97.1 Spartanburg, 97.7 Greenville. Also worldwide on the free Odyssey app. We'll continue the conversation. Get your thoughts as well. All coming up next on the Fan, Upstate. Your place to get caught up on what happened last night on the gridiron. I'm Cole Bryson, joined by Alex Guest. We are live on location at Ingalls, as we are each and every Saturday morning. This time we're at 1500 Gear Highway in Travelers Rest, South Carolina. We'll talk to Matt Reel, the head football coach of the Bowling Springs Bulldogs, at 8:40, closer to 9 o'clock. We'll talk to Chris Goodman of Travelers Rest, starting the season off last night. Alex, TR was 14 to
7 over Wade Hampton.
Close game for TR. A big win for Chris Goodman. His first win at TR.
Yep.
So congratulations to him. We will hear from him coming up at 9 a.m.-ish on the show. You can text the show, 71307. Start your text with the word fan. If you were at a game last night, you want to talk about, phone lines open as well. Talk about the game you were at, and then we'll get to some Brett Nichols audio. Fountain Inn is who you checked out last night.
Yeah, Fountain Inn hosting Liberty. Last night was the first game in the history of Fountain Inn football that they've had seniors on the field with them.
That's
so it was
a full class, right?
A full class, yeah. So they, I was, and I told you before we came on the air, Cole, I was 100% ready to come in here this morning and just ream into Fountain Inn fans and tell them that they were not supporting their team and doing a good job. And, I got there, I'm standing in front of the fans,
just kind of dead
on the track, and it was just dead. The news helicopter in the air above me was louder than the fans that I was standing around. They do, and then let me tell you, they spotted Liberty 20 points.
Yeah.
They went down 20-0. And from there, the fans got into it.
Oh, they just wanted the
they wanted a little excitement. So
they said, "Hey, we're going to let you have 20, and then we'll start playing."
Exactly. So 20-6 at halftime, and Fountain Inn defense really stepped up. I don't know what Brett Nichols told his team at halftime, but he really lit a fire under them and
scored how many points in the first half?
6 points in the first half. Won the game 42-34.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is a drastic difference between halves. Again, congratulations to Brett Nichols and Fountain Inn. Finally have a full class. That school is new. What is this, the third year?
Third year, yeah.
God, that's crazy. And you saw last night, they've got talent.
Yeah.
The quarterback's pretty good, isn't he?
He is. Very good.
Bad.
And sophomore
Sophomore
that. So
they're going to be a good team. So Fountain Inn, going to keep your eye on them, obviously, as we cover them here in the upstate. Let's go to the phones, 844-FAN phone. It's 844-326-3663. Daredevil wants to chime in about the Greer game. What's up, man? Daredevil, you there? I got you now, loud and clear, buddy. Well, two things. One side of the coin, Bowling Springs is very, very good. They're going to be as good as they've been since 2016. I've been talking about them all season. Their defensive line doesn't get talked about because everybody wants to talk about the offense, but Bowling Springs' defensive line is going to be one of the better units in the region. They showed that last night. And then on the flip side of the coin, Greer, Greer's in a spot that they've been, I feel like, Daredevil for the past eight or so years. Not scoring in week 0. That's obviously concerning. You are going up against a very good opponent. I would imagine it's hard to find positives in a game where you get beat 42-0 or 43-0. But Will Young and that staff, they're going to have to do that. To answer your question, are they in trouble? There's some concerns there, right? I'm not going to sit here and lie and tell you, no, everything's going to be fine. I definitely think there's some concerns, Daredevil. Sure. Well, it would have been a 38-yarder, and thanks for asking because we'll get into that here in a second as well. It's a good question. We were told that there was some miscommunication. A young quarterback who hadn't been in that experience. I'm not sure why they didn't kick it. Maybe they felt like 38 was too long of a field goal for their kicker in that situation. But as you heard me on air last night, I definitely thought that when Burns ran out of bounds and stopped the clock with 4 seconds, I thought they'd bring their field goal unit on. Absolutely, brother. Absolutely will. Appreciate your call. 844-FAN phone, 844-326-3663. That's the way you can get in touch with the show. Where were we at? Fountain Inn, congratulations to them. Big win. I guess the key for success for Fountain Inn in 2024 is to let them get up 20. Let the opponent get up 20, right? And then they'll wake up, and then they'll get ready and come out on all cylinders, I guess. Here we do have audio from Brett Nichols, the head football coach of Fountain Inn that you got last night. How many total cuts, Alex?
I think we have 4 total cuts.
3 or 4 cuts?
3 or 4, yep. Just kind of general post-game remarks, and then also talking about community support and that kind of stuff.
All right, Ben, if you don't mind, brother, let's fire through those with the head football coach of Fountain Inn, Brett Nichols. That was Brett Nichols. Alex, next time just tell the band, look over at the band and put your hand up and say, please stop. How do you do stop for a band?
You'd think
like
we
this?
were standing right in the middle of the band.
Did you interview him in the band room?
We did.
What it sounded like. Next time, just put your hand up and say, hey, I'm Alex Guest with the Saturday Scramble. Can you please stop playing so I can interview the coach? That's what you
just walk away.
Yeah,
Game's over. Get out of here.
Mean, you really want to piss the band parents off. There's multiple ways to do it. By the way, I've done that before once or twice. All right, back to the football last night. A game that I was at, Alex. Burns, T.L. Hanna. Obviously, you heard that game right here on the Fan Upstate, as that is who the Fan carries each and every Friday night. It's Burns football, 19-16. Final score. As those who listened and were at the game know, it was indeed a wild game last night. I said on the air that if you wanted to see crazy events in a football game last night, was the game you should have tuned into. A lot of thoughts. Number one, T.L. Hanna is not the same T.L. Hanna team that we're used to seeing. Let me get that out there. They're still a good team, but I want to be very clear. T.L. Hanna, for those that haven't seen them, they're down. They're a young team, just as Burns is. So when you talk about Burns hanging close with T.L. Hanna last night, no disrespect. I think they're a good team, but they're not the same T.L. Hanna team of old, right, that we've seen competing for state championships. T.L. Hanna gets the win, 19-16, in a game that was funky. Burns, T.L. Hanna in the very first half of the game, Alex, it seemed as if no one really wanted to threaten the score. It was 6-0 at the half. Burns had a few chances. I saw my very first assisting the runner penalty last night. Have you seen one of those
at
the high school level? No. The running back has the football, running toward the goal line, 10-yard line, gets to about the 7-6. Offensive line kind of gathers around, and it's a push to the end zone. Scores right at the goal line. Flag comes out, assisting the runner. Last night was the 12th season for me calling high school football. I don't think in 12 years I've seen a assisting the runner penalty. Not to my knowledge now. Obviously, I could have forgotten about it. But first time I've seen an assisting the runner. So that took a touchdown away. We get to half at 6-0. Second half, completely opposite. Now teams want to score. Burns scores. T.L. Hanna scores twice. Ends up winning the game. As Daredevil brought up, Burns had the ball. They were down 11 late in the game. Scored. Zy Landrum got hurt a couple of times, had to come out. He was banged up. Kane Rogers, the junior quarterback, backup, came in. I thought Kane had a very gutsy performance last night. Burns scores to cut the lead. They get the 2 points. They're down 3. runs out of bounds, does the running back to stop the clock at 4 seconds to go in the game at the 21-yard line. I'm thinking on the call, we're going to trot the field goal unit out and attempt a 38-yard field goal to tie it and get overtime.
Makes sense.
Well, the offense stays on the field. And I'm very surprised by that. I thought they would try the field goal. Kane Rogers gets the snap, I believe rolls to the right and throws it. And that was actually a really good throw. The receiver just unable to make the catch. It might have been a touch high. I just didn't have the best angle. But it was a good throw. And Burns was close to winning, walking it off if the receiver makes that catch in the end zone last night. But he doesn't. The ball falls to the ground, and T.O. Hanna wins. A lot of question marks last night for Burns going into week 1 now. Trace Aguirre was hurt. He saw like 6-7 snaps, not many snaps last night, Alex, in the second half. Your quarterbacks, Zy Landrum and Kane Rogers, both have completely different skill sets. One's more of a runner. One's more of a passer. Zy Landrum is very athletic. I don't think he's the passer that a lot of people when you look at high school football quarterbacks, you see pocket passers. He's not that guy. He's a run-first kind of guy.
Okay.
Kane Rogers, the brother of former Burns quarterback Gabe Rogers, who played just a few years ago, he's more of a pocket guy, right? He's less of the runner, more of the passer. So they've got two options at quarterback. It'll be very interesting to see what Burns does going forward at the quarterback position because Zy got banged up. He took a lot of hard hits, and when you run the football, you're going to take hard hits. The weakness, though, of that Burns defense is going to be the secondary, and the reason I say that is there's a freshman, just a lot of inexperience. The good thing is Burns showed flashes in the second half of a good football team. However, the secondary didn't get tested last night by T.L. Hanna, and that's a concern going forward because Irmo and other teams, Alex, as you know, they'll test you. So a tough week 0 game for Burns. You know how Burns fans are, obviously not happy when they lose. My phone since last night hadn't quit ringing, and the text messages from the Burns fans out there obviously very upset. That's Burns for you. But they fall week 0, 19-16. T.O. Hanna improves to 1-0. And Reggie Shaw 0-4 now against T.O. Hanna as the head football coach of the Burns Rebels. So a tough opening night for the Rebels. Let's go back to the phones. 844-FAN phone. It's 844-326-3663. Steven wants to talk about the Dorman game last night. What's up, Steven? When you say cleaned up, do you mean discipline? Gotcha. Absolutely. Listen, it's I'll say this. It seems like it's more and more prevalent, not just with Dorman, but across the board in terms of discipline and penalties. But I definitely understand your frustration. Appreciate the call, Stephen. That's Stephen on the Renewal by Anderson of the Carolinas fan phone. You can call in as well when the phone lines are open. However, we are going to run to a break and come back. We will be joined by Matt Rill, the head football coach of the Boiling Springs Bulldogs. They had a big win last night over the Greer Yellow Jackets. We'll talk to Matt Rill after the 43-0 win for Boiling Springs next. Thanks, buddy. How much time in this break, buddy? Okay, well, you call Matt Rill in about a minute and a half, 2 minutes, about 8:39. I have his number, and I'll give it to you. Let me know when you get to about a minute, and I'll give you his number, okay? Okay? Ready? 828-448-1373. Thanks, buddy. And just let me know when he's on the line.
Did you hear about that?
Putting a bow on our number one of the program. So good to have you along. I'm Cole Bryson, joined by Alex Guest each and every Saturday morning right here on the Saturday Scramble. We're live at 1500 Gear Highway in Travelers Rest, South Carolina. Speaking of Travelers Rest, we'll have Chris Goodman, the head coach of TR, on the show in about 15 minutes from now. They had a 14-7 win over Wade Hampton last night. But first, we want to go back to the Renewal by Anderson of the Carolinas fan phone, where we are joined by the head football coach of the Boiling Springs Bulldogs, Coach Matt Rill. Coach, 43-0 win over Greer last night. Could you have drawn it up any better than that? Coach, do we have you? Still trying to get Coach. Coach, can you hear me now? Yeah, I got you now. Sorry about that. Coach, I was just saying you couldn't have drawn it up any better. 43-0 win over Greer last night. Congratulations. Coach, when you look at Greer, obviously you guys were game planning during the weeks leading up to Greer. What did you see on film where you felt like this is an area we can exploit? Obviously, you score 43 points. You feel like you had a good advantage on the offensive side of the ball. Did you feel like going into the game that it could be a 43-0 victory? Yeah. Matt Real joining us right here on the Saturday Scramble, the head football coach of Boiling Springs. 43 win last night over Greer. Coach, it would have been a good night to have Lincoln Husky on your fantasy lineup. 6 touchdowns, 1 on the ground as well. I mean, what do you see? Just a phenomenal night for your quarterback. Yeah. Coach, defensively, you guys pitching a shutout. Let's go to the defense side of the ball. I mean, we knew coming in this defensive line, you told me it was going to be very good, but man, what a performance by this Bulldog defense.
everything that we talk about with our guys as far as a physicality standpoint, being the most physical team on the field, making sure they understand what it's going to be. It's going to be a long night. I think our guys did a tremendous job last night, especially in our special teams and in that defensive section. Just being physical and making it really, really hard on them to gain the yard.
Coach, we appreciate you taking time to hop on with us. Congratulations on the win last night for Bowling Springs.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it, Cole. Thank you, buddy.
Absolutely. That's Matt Reel, the head football coach of the Bowling Springs Bulldogs. And for those of you on the stream, I know the audio there was cutting in and out, so you can go back on the Odyssey app, AUDACY. It's the free Odyssey app, and listen to that interview anytime with Matt Reel. We'll also post it online after the show. An incredible interview. Alex, when you talk about dominant, and I said that, I asked him that question kind of tongue-in-cheek to begin. Did you go into it thinking you could win 43-0? I knew the answer. He's not going to give we knew we could blow him out. However, I love how Matt Reel says, I'm just not really surprised because he knows what kind of talent he has, right?
Right. Third year coach now?
Right.
So I mean, he knows what he has on his team. It's not like it's that first year anymore where he's still trying to figure out the guys that are going to be the playmakers for him. It's his third year. He knows what he's working with. He knows, he's got the right assistant coaches in place to get that team over the hump and compete for region championship that we talked about earlier in the show. We think very likely that week 4 game against Gaffney might be the region championship.
Well, it's going to go a long way. That game will go a long way in deciding the region. Whoever wins that game will be in prime position to have a chance to do that. And it's going to be fantastic to see that game, obviously, a little less than a month from now. But a big win from Bowling Springs. Looking at Hillcrest Lawrence last night. Mm-hmm. Lawrence, new coach. Greg Porter, first year there. Hillcrest is a good team. Let's start with that, right? They're a very good football team. Alex, Hillcrest running the double wing is something that they're going to probably have to take some time to really get, I guess, used to, because when you bring a double wing to a school that hasn't ran the double wing, you've got guys who run the system in practice and the off season leading up to it. And I understand that, the off season's helpful, but until you really get in those game reps, until you really take quality game reps, you're really not going to see what you're made of. And I think it's just going to take some time for Lawrence to kind of get there, running that double wing. Hillcrest, good night defensively, 16-0 win. I believe that we've talked to Bennett Swaggart multiple times, and he's told us that this is not only a team, that they're building, but a program. And Hillcrest has done a fantastic job in the past few years with Bennett, Alex, and that was a big win for the Rams last night.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a huge win for Hillcrest. And, you look at it and you say, okay, they were playing Lawrence. What has Lawrence done for me lately? But you mentioned it, first-year head coach Greg Porter down at Lawrence now, and he's going to turn that team around and get them headed in the right direction as well. But it's going to be interesting to see what both of those teams can do as the season goes on. But you talk about Hillcrest playing really good football to start the season, and it doesn't really get any easier for them. They've got a game against Clover next week as well. So it's going to be fun to see what happens between with those two teams in Hillcrest and Lawrence.
Hillcrest defeats Lawrence 16-0. J.L. Man all over Midland Valley 56-0. Riverside takes down Malden 39-20. No surprise there. You and I both, I believe, had Riverside winning that game.
Yep.
Riverside's a good team. They're going to surprise some people. They've got some talent at receiver, corners in the secondary, and a quarterback who I think is going to get better and better. We talked about T.L. Hanna Burns, 19-16 Hanna over Burns. Eastside all over Southside last night, 41-0. We did talk about the Spartanburg-South Point game to start the show this morning, 26-25. A walk-off win for the Vikings behind Will Love. A fantastic game last night at South Point, Spartanburg. That's a big win for their confidence as well. Yeah. Going on the road and getting that win. Travelers Rest over Wade Hampton 14-7. We'll talk to Chris Goodman and a few of his players coming up here in just a few minutes on the program. 96 fell to Emerald 14-6. I got that one wrong. I had 96 winning that game, Alex, and Emerald surprised me on that one. Taking down 96. As you mentioned earlier, a game you were at, Fountain Inn beat Liberty 42-34 last night. Westside Creekside today.
That's today. Yep.
And is that at Creekside?
That's at Creekside, yep.
You know where Creekside, Georgia is?
I'm guessing it's beside a creek.
Beside a creek, says Alex Guess. That would be that'd be a good guess. I don't know if you're right on that, but you might be right. Ran all over Palmetto 35-0, Alex. Daniel Chapman, a game we'll talk about for a second before we get to a break here in just a couple of minutes, Alex. Daniel defeats Chapman 41-21. We knew that Daniel lost a good bit from last year's roster. Still going to be a very good Daniel team, right? However, Chapman, they're in a situation where they're having to replace a lot of guys, offensively and defensively, breaking a new quarterback under Harry Cabanis, and going on the road to start the season at Daniel. That's a tall task. And Chapman, 21 points, they found some I guess they found some things offensively that they can build off of, but you're going up against a different beast than Daniel.
Yeah, absolutely. And we talked about it a ton last week that Chapman's schedule really doesn't get any easier.
No.
But, Daniel is an intimidating place to play, regardless of who you are. You could be the best team in the nation, and you go into Daniel, and they're packing that place out like they do. That's going to be an intimidating place to play. So, Daniel's a really good team. We see that year in and year out. Chapman, we talked about it. They've got a tough schedule this year. It doesn't get any easier by the time they get into the region. So that was about what I expected last night. But, it sounded like a really good game.
It was a good game. Daniel going to be a good team. So 41-21 was the score last night. Seneca defeats Powdersville 35-30 a one-point game at Seneca last night. Incredible game. I picked that one wrong. I picked Powdersville to win that one, and Seneca proved me wrong on that one, Alex. BHP, a very good team, all over Broome last night, 45-14. That's another tall task. Talking about Chapman having to go to Daniel. If you are Broome having to go to BHP to open the season. You and I saw Broome last Saturday morning in his preseason scrimmage, Alex. That's a tall task as well. BHP is going to be very good.
Yeah, very good team year in and year out. BHP. I saw BHP last week in the Jamboree at Gaffney against whoever they played from North Carolina. I can't remember now, but I mentioned it last week on the air. They looked a little down, but their starting quarterback was out with illness. Yeah. He's back last night. We see what they do.
Absolutely, a big win for BHP and Russell Blackston. We'll continue the conversation on the other side. We'll talk a little Travelers Rest football as well. TR Devil Dogs had a big win last night over Wade Hampton, 14-7. We'll talk to coaches and players, Chris Goodman and a few of his players coming up next. Hour number 2 of the Saturday Scramble coming your way right here on the Fan Upstate.
Going hot in 5.
It is the Saturday morning scramble. So good to be with you on this Saturday morning as we are live at Ingalls in Travelers Rest, South Carolina, 1500 Gear Highway, and TR is hour number 2 of the program as we are joined by some Travelers Rest Devil Dogs now. Colby Epps, the quarterback, and Barrett Eisenhower, the center. Did I say that right?
Yes, sir.
Gosh, look at me, man. I'm getting names right. That's the first time ever I've gotten the last name right that I've struggled with before. Eisenhower spelled different, but I actually got that one right. Colby Epps, the quarterback, Barrett Eisenhower, center for the Travelers Rest Devil Dogs. Guys, a big win last night, 14-7 over Wade Hampton. We'll start with the game last night, and we'll start with you, Barrett, and then we'll go to Colby, since it's usually the opposite, right? It's usually the quarterback who gets all the attention. We'll give the offensive linemen some love first. Let Barrett go first. Talk about the game last night. A close game, close win for you guys.
Well, we started off, I guess, trying to get in the rhythm in the first half. And as we got into the third quarter, we just kept pounding and kept just getting our rhythm. And right as we scored in the third quarter, we just set off. And right in the fourth quarter, when Colby scored that touchdown, we just knew we had it in the bag, and it was just something amazing.
So was it tied going into the fourth, 7-7?
Yes,
and then Colby, he talks about your touchdown in the fourth quarter. Obviously, as Barrett said, you guys were pounding away. When you say pounding away, more run heavy, or talk about this TR offense a little bit.
Yeah, so we were run heavy, trying to pound in the end zone. And Coach Goodman called a good play and ran it into the end zone.
Now, I'm glad you brought that up. First year is with Coach Goodman now in the system, leading the Travelers Rest Devil Dogs. What's it been like as players, and Colby, you can answer first, and we'll go to Barrett. What's it been like as players learning this new system that Coach Goodman brought in?
Oh, man, I love it. The energy he brings, I learn a lot, and what he teaches, I really like it.
That's awesome. And it's for those that don't know, it's a very run-heavy style offense. Do you throw the ball at all?
Yeah, a little bit.
How many times do you think total you threw it last night?
Probably 5 times.
5 times. Okay, so that's more. I mean, sometimes, I saw a wing T offense last night as well, so not a lot of passing. Barrett, for you as the offensive lineman with this new system, right, that you guys now run, Barrett Eisenhower and Colby Epps joining us on the Saturday Scramble. Talk about the adjustment from the offensive line standpoint, being a center, how that's impacted your position.
I really feel like it's impacted me a lot, especially from last year because it's a new offense. And I feel like as a line, we've come together from this offense, and it's special to just keep going forward and not look back.
Technique-wise, like from the offensive line standpoint, when you switch to a wing-style offense, what changes from the offensive line standpoint?
Understanding was a big change to me, and getting the steps right and everything, and going over footwork was a huge difference. Yeah.
Between the two offenses, footwork was a big part of it.
Yes, sir.
What do you think, Colby, from the quarterback standpoint? Obviously, you talked about before we went on the air that you grew up with Travelers Rest. You've been in the system before. What do you think was the biggest change, maybe the biggest thing that you had to adjust to with this new offense?
Probably going under center, and because I never went under center before. I had to get that right with Barrett. A lot of work on the weekends and stuff like that, getting it ready.
Under center is a big part of that. I'm assuming, I don't know how many snaps you take that are not under center. Are they all from under center?
Yes, sir.
Most of those wing-style offenses are. The Wade Hampton game last night, you talk about you going in the fourth quarter, Colby, and scoring a touchdown as the go-ahead touchdown. 14-7 was the final score. What'd you see? Walk us through that last drive.
All right, so we're going down the field. I can't remember exactly what yard line it was. And then we called this play called jet right, and it got ate up. So then coach came over. He was like, fake the jet, and then hit the hole. And David was lead blocking for me, and it was a touchdown.
So it's a quarterback keeper designed quarterback keeper up the middle or on the outside? Outside. So do you as a quarterback, do you like when they call a play where it's your own number?
Yeah.
Get to run a little bit?
Yeah, I do.
How far out was it? Do you remember?
I think we're in the 40.
Oh, wow. 40-yard-ish,
so.
somewhere. So not a short touchdown run.
No.
It was at that point when you scored last night to go up 14-7 over Wade Hampton. Did they still have time on the clock?
Yes, sir. I think it was like 3 minutes. 3 minutes or something. I'm pretty sure it was 8 minutes left. I'm pretty sure. I can't remember.
Final score ends up being 14-7. Travelers Rest wins. What do you guys? I mean, when you talk about this new offense that you run, what do you want the identity of this team to be? You both can answer that. Did I stump you on that one?
Uh-huh.
Okay, I know that the offense obviously is run heavy, but here's a good example. Fans come and fans at Travelers Rest. Tell me if I'm wrong. Probably not used to watching this type of offense, right? So it's probably an adjustment not only for the players but for the fans as well. Does that offense, even though the receivers aren't as involved, even though you're not spreading out, does it still generate that same level of excitement?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And that's awesome to see. I mean, I think when it's ran correctly, you and I, Alex, saw it last week over at Broome in a preseason scrimmage with the other team, but when it's ran correctly, it really is effective. What do you think, though? A big win week 0, so you start off 1-0. What are some things from your side, Barrett, as well as you, Colby, that you still want to see your team get better on? Maybe some things you'll talk to your team about.
I think we need a little bit more work on the blocking standpoint, but in the second half we were getting it down, but there's still some things that we need to work on. And I think as we go into the week, we'll get this thing changed and we'll be good.
Let me ask you this, Barrett, before we go to Colby on that question. When you're talking about a new system as an offensive lineman, you're going against, during practice, you're going against your team, every single day. Do you feel like sometimes you really have to have those game reps to elevate to the next level?
Yes, sir.
And I know that's a big part of it, seeing, actual game reps. Colby, from your standpoint, what are some things you feel like you can get better on as well?
I'm going to say more reps. As the game went on last night, it was actual game reps. We got better as we went on.
Yeah.
I could see that. The blocking and there's just schemes and stuff.
When you talk about the scheme with that run-heavy style offense in game reps, is it more about timing in terms of the offense, the team gelling and having more chemistry? Is it more about timing, or is it just more about being able to stick to your assignment? How would you say, you can actually progress in this wing-style offense?
It's a lot about timing and getting the right block. Because if you miss one block, then it's over. You're not good.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes sense. I obviously have seen it. I don't see it week in and week out like you guys do, so not as familiar with it. But it's fascinating because, to your point, if it's ran correctly, it's very effective. Next week, you guys help me out here, Alex. I'm not looking as of right now. Week 1 matchup. Emerald, says Coach Goodman. Emerald. And then is that one on the road or is that one at home?
It's on
the road. So going to Emerald. At what point in the week do y'all usually switch over and start watching film on the next opponent?
Usually we'll come to practice next week. On Monday we'll be watching film on them. Usually, yeah. Yeah, he should post it tomorrow,
right?
Monday,
right. Well, guys, we appreciate you. That's Colby Epps, the quarterback, Barrett Eisenhower center. A big win. Congratulations to you guys last night getting the first win under Coach Goodman at TR.
Thank you.
Appreciate you guys as well. They're going to pass the headset now to Coach Goodman, who will have on the show. Chris Goodman joining us momentarily. Travelers Rest wins last night over Wade Hampton, 14-7. An excellent job from Colby Epps and Barrett Eisenhower joining us this morning on the show. Coach, you can grab either of those headsets. Either one works for us as we are talking a little TR football, Travelers Rest Devil Dogs football, as Coach Chris Goodman joins us. Coach, first of all, thanks for coming out, bringing the guys, and helping us showcase Travelers Rest football this morning.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Coach, it's a big win last night, 14-7. Getting your first win as Travelers Rest. Do you feel like after that win you kind of get a little monkey off the back just in terms of breaking the ice?
Yeah, for sure. Wade Hampton was in the exact same situation with Ruben Wright. That first game, a lot of stress, and going into it, you both won it. And it looked like both teams played that way. That's not last year's Wade Hampton. It's not the team we saw on film, so he's got them going in the right direction. And it was just, I would say it was who had the ball last, but they had the ball last, and they got an untimed play inside the red zone, inside the 10. And they got 2 shots of it after a penalty. And so the defense held up.
Chris Goodman, the head football coach of the Travelers Rest Devil Dogs, joining us right here on the Fan. Upstate coach, your quarterback Colby Epps talked about that last drive. He said it was close to a 40-yard touchdown call where you guys were able to take the lead 14-7. What did you see on that drive and that play call? He said it was a designed quarterback keeper. Is that right?
Yeah, so it was actually drawn in the dirt. We lost our jamboree the week before the rain, and so we lost a lot of game-like experience. And we were trying to run jet, and we saw it on the backside. And actually, one of our assistant coaches, Levi Lawrence, had said earlier in the week, "Hey, coach, I think you're going to have something back this way." And so we just said, "Hey, fullback, just go that way," and quarterback follow him. And he almost looked like a designed trap, knocked the guy out and Colby just made a heck of a run. Just really showed some warrior spirit in that moment. Really, you saw us become the new TR Devil Dogs in that moment.
You know, when you talk about taking over a program, bringing in a new offense, obviously if the season starts and you lose the first few games, you know, you're still having to kind of convince people in a way. But that winning that first game, how does that just kind of give everyone, including the community, just a little boost as you guys start 1-0?
I think it's massive. It was the main goal, you know. And then when we got rained out last week, we actually got 2 offensive plays against Eastside in the jamboree. And we did 2 offensive plays, 2 fumbles, and gave it right back to them. So we didn't really know anything. You know, we didn't even get to talk to the guys up top in the press box before the rain come. We didn't get to work out any kinks. And so we brought that stress into a Friday night where we felt like Wade Hampton had a lot more time. They had the spring. Reuben been hired since February. They had a lot of time to get prepared, and ours was short, and we were kind of concerned about that.
Coach, when you talk about your quarterback, Colby Epps, who we just heard from a few minutes ago, how would you describe his transition? Because he talked about it being exciting from the old offense to what you guys are running now.
Right. Everybody's spread and everything. And I listened to y'all's show on the way up here. You're talking about DL Hanna. They're under center. St. Joe's beat Cardinal Newman last night. They're under center. We get bashed with this under center stuff, but he's a rodeo kid. He probably didn't say that he's a cowboy. He can wrestle steers and all that stuff, and so that's kind of a good under center guy.
I didn't say that. You learned something new about him.
So when you can run option, they're pretty tough kids. It kind of fits their personality. They just need time to learn it.
What do you think now that you've gotten some game reps? How can you elevate this wing offense to where you guys can take it to the next level?
Discipline. It's discipline. We had a drove of penalties last night on both sides of the ball. We made a game closer than it needed to be. And so discipline's the next piece. Sure. And then the mesh. We got to work on just what we're seeing and what the play is. But he probably didn't tell you before we called that play and after it, the confidence that we saw in him, I started letting him call his own plays.
Really?
And to do that with a first game, that's pretty impressive. I always want to try to give it to him, but he started calling his own plays to try to get the clock off, and it was all positive yards.
That's unbelievable, calling your own plays. Talk about that a little bit. When you have a quarterback, the very first game of the season, week 0, do you feel like it's a situation where he has to know the offense to a certain level or a certain extent to be able to do that? And is that something that was kind of picked up in the offseason?
Yeah, like it's pretty elementary right now. And so you're kind of working from inside out. Sure. And it's got to be his eyes. And so he'll come to the sideline and we'll give him a play that has nothing to do with the option. But I'm still asking him, what did you see there? And as the game went on, he started seeing stuff. I said, do you see it? And he goes, I see it. I said, then go call it.
Right.
If you see something, go call it. I don't have to call it. You see it better than I do. We didn't have an end zone camera. We ain't got no drone in here.
Yeah.
You're seeing it better than me. Go out there.
That's unbelievable. I think that says a lot about the quarterback as well and that offense to be able to do that. We're talking to Chris Goodman, the head football coach of the Travelers Rest Devil Dogs. Coach, talk about the wing offense. Is that something for those that aren't as familiar with it? You talk about it being elementary right now. Is that something that you kind of add elements to as the season goes on?
Yes, and that's the way I should have went about it. But I went straight into the complicated part of it, and it was overly complicated just for everybody involved. And the rain and the fumbles at the Jamboree really opened the eyes that, hey, we need to change this up. So we went in Monday and we platooned our team.
Really?
I took those 2 guys, and then the defensive coordinator, John Leday, picked the next 11. And we built our platoon Monday. We had not platooned the whole spring or summer, and we split our team on Monday so we could get twice as many reps and time with each group.
Wow. And that's, right before the season started, that's a big move. Talking about Emerald, and week number 1, you guys are going to go on the road. Obviously, it's Saturday morning. You probably hadn't had time to even open the film on them yet, but Emerald's a team that has obviously being in the upstate you are somewhat familiar with already.
Yeah. I got Coach Frost on the staff, and he talks about Tad DeBose, good guy and stuff. Saw a couple of clips on him. We're in the middle of the exchange. But it's going to come down to our defense. Our defense was really impressive last night. If we could just get a little bit more discipline, take the penalties off, we should have had a 0 on the board. We potentially could have done that last night and then done better on offense. So when I said earlier about the discipline, that's what I'm hoping to see, especially with going on the road.
Absolutely. We're talking to Chris Goodman. Coach, you know what? It's fascinating to watch. You mentioned it a few minutes ago, the teams that still do run the wing. You're right. They do get criticized a lot, and maybe sometimes that is unfair criticism, and I think it's fascinating to still see it effectively. Would you say that the wing style offense is something that you believe you can compete at the highest level with?
No, absolutely. I mean, look at Hannah. I've always said that if the Alabamas of the world just kept doing it, they could do whatever they want to, and it's just so fun because everybody's involved, and they can see stuff, and they can say, Coach, I got this, I got that. You want to be a lineman and just step back and press, and go one-on-one with somebody, you can, but in the triple option and double option and so forth, everybody's kind of engaged. Even wide receivers and stuff are looking for the routes off of their blocks and so forth.
Coach, we appreciate your time. Thank you again for coming out, bringing your players, and we appreciate the chance to showcase Travelers Rest football.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Good
Absolutely. We'll take a break, come back, continue the conversation as well on the other side. You're listening to the Saturday Scramble on the Fan Upstate. Alex, now all of a sudden I want to learn how to rodeo. Colby Epps, quarterback, Travelers Rest, who was on with us just a few moments ago, showed us a video during the break. Chris Goodman told us he's a rodeo guy. I mean, that stuff is fascinating. You saw the video, right?
Yeah, I've got 15 cows down in Fountain Inn.
Well, I don't know that it would be, I probably couldn't even get on the cow or the horse, whatever you're supposed to do. I'm not a rodeo guy, but that's awesome.
You get on a horse.
Super fascinating. You do get on a horse. You're right. But then why'd you bring up the cow? Those cows have to do it.
Well, you rope the cows.
Oh, okay. You may try to rope the cows.
Yeah.
So good to be at Ingles this morning as we are live in Travelers Rest, 1500 Gear Highway. Finishing up hour number 2. Still 40 minutes to go in the program. So good to have you along. You can text the show anytime, 71307. Start your text with the word fan. If you were at a game last night, you want to talk about the conversation, get in on it right now. 844-FAN phone as well, 844-326-3663. Alex, let's get to a few Greenville County teams. Christchurch had a tough one last night. Hammond, a Skeeza school that I've seen play one time in my entire life, and that's it. And didn't know that that Hammond was as good as they are, but a 56-28 win over Christchurch. And Christchurch is a good football team, but I tell you what, man, I didn't expect that last night.
Yeah, well, and I'm right there with you. I've seen Hammond play all of one time in my entire life, and that was during Gaffney's 2021 state championship run, where Hammond almost beat Gaffney, and it was 14-7 was the final in that game. So, Hammond's a really good football team. They've got a really good coach in John Wheeler down there, but I don't know that I expected that last night.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, that's a lot of points. And again, Christchurch is no slouch team either. And I picked Christchurch to win, just underestimated Hannah a little bit. Didn't realize that would be as lopsided as it was. Abbeville defeated Southside Christian 41-7. As good as Southside Christian is, I don't believe you and I had any question to whether or not this one would go in the favor of Abbeville. We talked about it. Abbeville's Abbeville, and it's going to be a tough road for anyone that has to play those guys, especially at Abbeville, like Southside Christian had to do last night.
Yeah, and I think Abbeville last night just renamed their stadium. It was Height Stadium, and now it's Height Nichols Stadium, I think, because Jamie Nichols is in his 21st year at Abbeville, and it seems like he's won about 21 state championships in his time there. He hasn't, but it just seems that way because Abbeville is
10 a year at least.
Abbeville is just that dominant every year.
That's really impressive. A big win for them last night. St. Joseph's, Alex, 40-30 over Cardinal Newman. They begin the season, does St. Joe's. That's a big win for St. Joe's as well. So St. Joe's starting 1-0. Union County, Newberry last night. We know that Union County, first-year head coach Quentin Isom, going to be a lot of challenges. They're banged up from what I was told, talking to a few people yesterday. They are dealing with some injuries, some starters, and when you go down the Newberry, you better have your horses ready because they're always going to be a good football team, and just no match last night for Newberry. Union's got a tough non-region schedule. It's going to take time. Union fans are going to have to be patient because it's going to take time to build this program back up with Quentin Isom.
Why didn't you tell me that all the insider information you had? I wouldn't have picked Union.
Well, you didn't ask.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, Union they've got to be patient. I mean, that's going to be key number one for their fans this year. I mean, you mentioned their tough non-region schedule. They've got a tough region as well, but they are at home for their home opener next week against Fairfield Central. They've got York. They're at Blacksburg, Chester, Clinton. Then you start the region. I mean, that's tough. That's tough. If they come out of that, if they don't come out of that black and blue, I'll be surprised.
I've seen York. I've seen Chester. I've seen Broome. And I've seen Chat. I mean, already this year, just in some preseason stuff. That's a tough road right there. Clinton, Woodruff last night. Alex, a game that I got wrong. And, man, this was surprising. When you talk about the games last night that surprised us, I would probably put this near the top. Woodruff over Clinton, 40-36. Man, oh man, I tell you this, I just did not know that Woodruff had the firepower to go toe-to-toe and take down Clinton in week 0.
Yeah, I mean, Clinton's a really good team. Woodruff hasn't really been Woodruff of old recently. So
second-year coach.
I think both of us were really kind of surprised by that game. I mean, Clinton got 6-year head coach in Corey Fountain. You mentioned second-year coach down at Woodruff, and so I think that was a really good test for both teams last night. I mean, week 0, you always want to try to schedule good tests early in the season, but every game really means something.
We heard a lot when Brett Sloan took over at Woodruff. We heard a lot last year about the potential that he had and could bring to that program, and there were some challenges in year 1 last year, and obviously some learning curves. But I'll tell you what, man, to come out in year number 2 and make that kind of impact in week 0, beating a very good Clinton team. And from what I was told, Clinton has some inexperience, especially in the secondary on defense, that Woodruff took advantage of last night. But that is a big, big win for Woodruff. How about Blacksburg last night? Josh Batchelor starting the season 1-0 in week 0, 44-28 over Ware Shoals. I tell you what, man, Blacksburg putting up 44 points. That's something. And I told you, we talked about it last week. They've got some talent on this year's team.
Yeah, that's a really nice win for Josh Batchelor in his 3rd year at Blacksburg. And, they kind of have one of those weird early buys. They now have the bye week.
This week?
One.
That is weird.
Before opening up the rest of their schedule. They've got Cherryville out of North Carolina coming to town in 2 weeks. But a weird kind of early bye for them, but a big win to start the season and really take some of that film and figure out, hey, this was a great win, but let's figure out where we can improve on that to keep that ball rolling down the rest of the year.
Well, they've got some talent, and listen, the reality of it is they've got some guys who have grown up in the system that are talented. They've got some transfers from Gaffney, 4 or 5 guys that are good players that have helped Blacksburg. Ellis defensively had an interception last night. Daniel Ellis' son, who's over the touchdown, or excuse me, over the Gaffney Booster Club, I believe, at Gaffney. And his son at Blacksburg got an interception last night, so congratulations to him and Coach Josh Batchelor on their first win. Now, let's get to the good and the bad. What did we do good and bad last night, Alex? Yours. How did we both finish with the same? Is this right? We both finished with the same record. Come on. We tied.
We tied.
Come on.
We both went 17-7.
Which is not good for me. I'm not happy with that.
I mean, it's not good for me either. I mean,
I'm not happy with it.
But there were games that, look, I told you yesterday, you made your picks. I was going to make my picks, and when I went through and was making my picks, I was looking at them, and I said, we're picking the exact same teams. So I decided that I was going to change it up a little bit.
Well, sometimes that's good. Because sometimes you're going to lose, though.
I didn't want us to be. It's okay. I didn't want us to come in here and both of us be 24-0 or whatever.
Even though you tried not to, it happened.
It still happened. So,
so you got to pick the same game as me this week.
We both got easily wrong.
Okay, we both picked easily over Pickens, right?
Yep.
And Pickens won that game. So I picked Dorman. You picked Greenville.
Yep.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
So you started off 0-2 there. You picked Greer, but I don't know why you did that. That was a dumb pick. Maybe you're just going opposite of me, right?
I was going opposite of you.
But don't do that anymore.
Okay.
Don't do that anymore.
I'll not do that
We both
anymore.
picked South Point, right?
Yeah, both picked South Point.
Spartanburg with a big win. We talked about it to lead the show at 8 o'clock this morning. Spartanburg with a massive win last night on the road for Mark Hodge. I tell you, man, when you talk about going to South Point and getting a win, obviously it does a lot for the team to be able to get that first win and go 1-0. But in terms of confidence, that's got to be a big confidence boost. So congratulations to Mark Hodge and the Spartanburg Vikings for getting off to a good start last night. And look, they're battling a lot of injuries. So for them to go on the road with the injuries that they have is mighty impressive. Let's see. I picked 96 over Emerald.
Yep.
Emerald won that football game last night, so I got that one wrong.
But see, I picked Emerald.
So you got it right.
So now we're
even out.
Yeah, we're even out.
I did think old Robert Mustard in Powdersville would beat Seneca. However, I picked Seneca. You picked Seneca there. Well, that was a 1-point game last night between Seneca and Powdersville. Tell you what, that seemed like one of the better games of the night last night between Powdersville and Seneca. We both picked BHP. We both picked Saluda. We both picked Pendleton. We hadn't talked much about that one yet. Pendleton over Chesney. I said it last week. Chesney, first-year coach, Brett Chappell, still trying to get this offense and the new system in place. There's going to be learning curves and challenges in year one. Mm-hmm. And then when you go all the way to that Pendleton week 0, obviously that's a tough test for anybody. And Chesney unable to get the win last night, 0-1 starting the season are the Eagles of Chesney. We both got that one right. I picked Landrum over Walhalla. Landrum starting the season 0-1 last night. I tell you what, that one surprised me a little bit. Walhalla with a big win, and Landrum's second year now under Brent Bridges, if I'm not mistaken, Alex. So Landrum starts off 0-1.
No, he was not surprised about that.
You picked Walhalla.
I picked Walhalla.
But the only reason you picked him is because you went opposite of me.
Yeah.
You're still going to take them. We both, however, picked Christchurch. Yeah. We both looked bad on that one. As Hammond absolutely had their way offensively. 56 points, I believe. Yeah. Hammond defeated Christchurch last night. We did both pick Abbeville. We did both pick St. Joe's. Mountain View Prep today. Atlantic Collegiate. And I believe they're from the coast, maybe the Conway area, somewhere around there. That one is being played at Presbyterian College. I don't know that. Do you have the time? I don't have the time on that. I don't. But Mountain View is playing a few of their home games at PC. So if you want to see some football today, Mountain View Prep, new charter school in Spartanburg, they are playing their home games at PC.
It is 6:30.
6:30 night game.
6:30 tonight.
Under the lights, maybe in the second half for Mountain View tonight, beginning their inaugural season. How about that?
Yep.
How about that? So good luck to Gray Ramsey and MVP tonight. Union County, Newberry. I picked Newberry. You picked Union County. We split there. We both picked Clinton. Mm-hmm. The Red Devils burned us last night over Woodruff. Again, I just want to say that was a big, big win for Woodruff. So a little bit surprised by that. Alex, overall, week 0, a really good week, a big slate of games, 30 games last night. You were at the Fountain Inn game. I was at TL Hanna, as it was Burns-Hanna, 19-16 win over Burns for the Yellow Jackets. Jason Tone it continues to lead that program. They're young. They're down compared to what they were because they were so good. Again, that's no disrespect to this year's team. They're just not the same team they were. Still a very good team. They still run that offense smoothly and efficiently. And Burns, right now, they're going to have some questions to answer, really, at the quarterback position in terms of what they do with Zy Landrum and Kane Rogers. Both saw time last night. Trey Segura banged up, didn't really play maybe 5 or 6 snaps last night in total. So a lot to get to from last night. And, again, we try our best to touch on everything that happened. But in terms of surprises last night, Alex, the Woodruff game, to me, as you look at the week 0 slate of games, it did surprise me that Spartanburg won. I picked South Point. It did surprise me that Greenville made that late surge on Dorman and almost won the game or had a chance to tie it. But I think the Woodruff game for me is probably the one that surprises me the most.
Yeah, I think that's a big surprise. I mean, you and I both, I felt very confident in my pick of Clinton over Woodruff. And, I mean, it was a 4-point game. So a good game, but Woodruff with the win there, very surprising to me. I think the other surprise to me, and we've talked about it a little bit, is the Hammond Christchurch game. You know, nothing against Hammond and Esquiza School or anything like that. Obviously, I get it; they're a really good team, and they've won 20+ state championships at the Esquiza level, but I think that was a big surprise to me as well, just seeing how Hammond really kind of manhandled Christchurch.
They really did, man. And Christchurch is a good team. A little bit of surprise for me there as well. So, again, a fun week 0. The best part, in my opinion, about week 0 this season, Alex, that with the new classifications, we actually have meaningful non-region games that we've been told are going to count toward the postseason rankings. They're not just pointless non-region games, and I think that's big because I've complained about it the last few years that we're playing all these non-region games that don't matter. I'm glad they actually have meaning now.
Yeah, absolutely. And, now if we can just figure out how to get week 0 to just be called week 1,
I don't think that's
week 0. But, no, I agree with you. It's nice to go into one of these early season games and you're watching it and it's like, oh, this actually means something toward playoff standing.
Let's go to the phones, 844-326-3663. Big Kev wants to chime in on the conversation. What's up, big guy?
What's up, my dog?
How are you, man? I'm good. Good to hear from you.
Man, I'm okay and not okay.
Well, tell us why you're not okay first.
Oh, my boy took one on the chin last night, man.
And that would be the Chapman Panthers, right?
Yeah.
For those out there that didn't know.
I stopped at that, so I think that's the name of the guy, man.
Yeah.
I think they only had one system there last night.
Not a good experience?
No. I got there about 5, 6. I didn't see no food about almost 7. I think they had to go back there, shoot Bessie, put Bessie out, put Bessie on the chain, get Bessie meat out, break it down.
Man, I hate that for you. That's a rough night. You had bad quality or bad service, slow food, and then your Chapman Panthers lost. Daniel still, though, Kev, even though they lost a lot, it's still a good team, huh? You were there.
Man, listen, man. Daniel, one thing I want to, if I don't praise nothing else, man, whoever their offensive line coach is, that's the dude right there, man. I'm telling you right now, their offensive line came off the ball last night. And like I said, you win the game up front to me.
Yeah.
But them boys came off the ball, man. And I ain't saying we played bad. That's a really good offensive line, man. Like, they got some pieces and some young guys in the next couple of years. They going to run 4-way, 8 men. Where they go, I think they were 4-way, but no, they were 3. Back in the day. But get them about a year or so. They'll be back. They got some young boys. They got another Jadavion Clowney. I'm telling you right now.
And that's the thing.
With everything.
The year that
he may be in 10th grade, but he coming along.
Well, when Daniel has a down year, there's still a very good football team. That's what's scary, right?
Right. That's the thing about it. They may have a down year because they might lose 3 games.
Yeah. Chapman-wise, Big Kev, what Chapman Panthers, what do you think you need to see out of them improvement-wise?
Yeah, just keep getting the young guys experience, man, because after Cunningham last year and this year coming in, we only had maybe one receiver that's got a catch on Boston. So, and I think he got a little injury last night. So, right now, we don't have nobody that's experienced at catching the ball on Boston. They've got some catches in these scrimmages and jamborees and stuff, but as far as game time, they haven't got any. So, we just got to keep getting better at running the ball, finishing drives, and just finish it off, man, because that's the thing. We can move the ball and drive. We got to finish it, man. And like me as the offensive line, once we cross the 50, I feel like we got to go on here. There ain't no ifs and buts about that. Once you cross, if you grow and cross the 50, we got to keep pushing.
No doubt. That's good stuff, man. And by the way, I saw a picture of you this week on Facebook all dressed up with your coaching stuff on. I mean, I just thought I was looking at, Bill Belichick over there all dressed up. You look mighty fine, Kevin, in your coaching attire. So congratulations to you on – what are you coaching, 9th grade?
No, I got 7th and 8th grade.
7th and 8th grade. That's awesome.
I still got my 4th grade babies, too.
There you go. Coaching them up, man. Coaching them up.
Yeah, man, I got to have them, man, because we got to get that physicality back that we had a long time ago in the 90s, man, and just want to beat people up and make them like it, man.
That's the problem, man. People don't there's only a few people that really enjoy going out there and playing offensive line, and, it's just not – I don't think it's as talked about as important of a position as it really is,
Well, yeah, I was talking to one of my guys about that the other day. He was like, Coach, I don't know if I like playing offensive line. I said, truthfully, nobody does. Like, when you're growing up as a young child, you've never heard nobody say, man, I want to be the next old tackle or the next guard or the next best. You're not going to hear that. You are made into an offensive line. Now, you might come out and say, hey, I want to sack quarterback. I want to do that kind of stuff. But you never have heard anybody say, man, I think I'm going to be the next great center somewhere. No, you're not going to hear that. You get put on the line, hey, you're going to be blocking. Yeah. If you love ball, you just go, hey, you love it and go out there and do it. But ones that don't and they mope and complain about it, the ones that, okay, we're going to find something else for him to do, or he stands on the sideline the whole time.
Kev,
so,
real quick, sorry to interrupt you. Chapman next week, what's it look like for the Panthers in week 1?
We got St. Joe's coming.
Ooh,
man.
wow.
I know they usually have a good running back.
Well, I'll tell you this. Alex and I saw St. Joe's last Saturday, right? And Eric Nash, former offensive line coach at Walford, who was there for like 15 years, that is a well-oiled machine, Kev. They're really good.
I believe. I'm like, they've been knocking at the door for the past few years in 3A.
Yeah.
Making big runs in the playoffs. So now it's either time to keep that push going or whatever it may be. But I know they're gonna have a pissed off team coming out there next Friday.
Hey, appreciate the call, buddy.
All right, man.
That's Big Kev. You can call the show as well. 844-FAN-PHONE. We'll take our last break. Come back, look at games for week 1. Put a bow on the show. This is the Saturday Scramble on the Fan Upstate.
This is the Saturday Morning Scramble, powered by Founders Federal Credit Union and your local Ingalls market.
This is the Fan Upstate. 97.7 FM Greenville, 97.1 FM Spartanburg.
Streaming everywhere on the Odyssey app.
I want to say thanks to Ingalls, as always. It's where we are this morning, 1500 Gear Highway in Travelers Rest. Always love being at Ingalls. We are at a different Ingalls every Saturday morning. I want to go ahead and give you a sneak preview. If you want to come out and see us next Saturday, you can do so. The 31st of August, Alex Guest, we'll be at 10903 Anderson Road in Piedmont. That's a great location. I was just there on Wednesday. So the Piedmont, Powdersville, we need you to show up next Saturday morning. That's where we will be, and then we'll make our way in September back over towards Spartanburg, and we'll be coming to a city near you. Appreciate Ingalls as well as Founders Federal Credit Union for making the show a possibility each and every Saturday morning. Alex, let's look at week 1 as week 0 is now in the rear view mirror. What's the biggest games you look at?
Man, season's flying by.
Don't say that. You're going to make me sad. The biggest games you look at for week numero uno.
I mean, I think, we touched on it briefly, but I think the Gaffney J.O. Man game is going to be a big game for both teams. just to really come out and make a statement. I mean, J.O. Mann made a statement last night, but they were playing Midland Valley. Nothing against Midland Valley.
It's not Gaffney.
It's not Gaffney. Right. So I think that's going to be a big game. I'll be interested to see how Burns responds after last night's loss, going down to Irmo. It's going to be a tough task.
Irmo's really, really good.
And then, I mean, really the Dutch Fork-Spartanburg game. Spartanburg a winner last year over Dutch Fork, but this year's Dutch Fork is not last year's Dutch Fork.
Dutch Fork last year, it was literally. In my opinion, it was 2 seasons.
Yes. Yep.
We talked about it.
The first 5 weeks.
What is going on with Dutch Fork? They were losing to everybody. And then the second half of the season, well, they just did what Dutch Fork does. We saw them late in the year. Very good. J.O. Mann just a couple of plays away last year from taking down Dutch Fork and playing in the state championship. You're right. Spartanburg, Dutch Fork is going to be great. Burns has a tall task in front of him with Irmo. Irmo's really, really good. Dorman, tall task.
Yes.
Going to Grayson. Grayson's played Spartanburg a lot lately. Grayson is so good.
Creekside, Georgia is beside a creek, by the way.
Oh, is it? You got that out of
Do you know where Grayson, Georgia is?
Beside Creekside?
No.
Okay.
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't have a clue. Spartanburg's played them in the last few years, 2 or 3 times, maybe twice. And they're always very, very competitive. So I tell you, week 1, there are going to be some good games. Let's go through the schedule, Alex, and just make a few early leans. Wren easily struggled last night. You got to think Wren has the advantage there. I'll tell you this. Riverside Greenville might be an interesting game next week. Matthew Rochester versus first-year head coach Jabo Shaw. By the way, I saw Connor Shaw, his brother, was at the game last night at Dorman. So he was on the sideline supporting his brother in his first game. Greenville, Riverside, that one's going to be one of the tougher games to pick this week.
I think so, and it's at Greenville, so I think Greenville maybe might have the home field advantage there and the home crowd behind them there at Serene Stadium. But
Riverside had a good win last night.
That may be a game time decision for me.
I know. That's going to be a tough one to pick. It really is. You mentioned Clover Hillcrest earlier in the show. Going to be another good game. Hillcrest coming off of a win last night over Lawrence, 16-0. Gaffney, J.O. Mann. Obviously, that's one you highlight. It's at J.O. Mann. Gaffney, J.O. Mann have played in the last 4 or 5 years or so in the playoffs. Gaffney, it's going to be what's in truth. We were talking about this earlier in the week on our show in the afternoons. 8 years ago, we wouldn't be having this conversation. We'd be saying, "Oh, this is a walk in the park for Gaffney."
Right.
However, things have changed.
J.O. Mann is much improved.
Yeah, the landscape in high school football in the upstate's not what it used to be. Spartanburg County doesn't rule the upstate like it used to. Burns is down. Dorman's in a rebuild mode. Spartanburg, obviously, 6-6 last year. Not the Spartanburg of old, but improving. It's not Spartanburg County anymore like it used to be. And J.O. Mann, they're a test. The Gaffney coaches know it. J.O. Mann coaches know it. That's going to be one of the better games on Friday night at J.O. Mann. First game for Gaffney because, as you said earlier, they were off last night.
Crest canceled.
Crest backed out.
They got scared.
Whatever reason, they did not want to play. You're right. Martin, Bowling Springs.
Okay.
You know what? It's going to be if Bowling Springs does what they did last night, Martin better have a really good week of practice because it could be another big win for Bowling Springs. Woodmont, Seneca next week. I mentioned Burns goes on the road in Columbia. I don't know if you've seen the weather. It's supposed to get really hot again in the 90s next week.
97.
And Columbia, it's going to be even worse.
Yep.
That game's going to be hot in Columbia, and Irmo's loaded. Dorman at Grayson. That's going to be a great game. Dorman's got the work cut out for him there. Carolina East Side, we mentioned Dutch Fork, Spartanburg, Alex, Wade Hampton, Blue Ridge next week. Travelers Rest. We talked to Chris Goodman. They have Emerald. Yep. I like Travelers Rest. Their chances. They're getting better and better.
They're waking up the echoes.
How about this one? Fountain Inn Woodruff next week at Fountain Inn. You going to that one?
I'm not. I think I'm going to go to that Gaffney J.O. Mann game.
Just trying to change your mind. This should be a good game. The Woodruff and Fountain Inn both coming off big wins last night. Yeah. They both put up a lot of points. And I'll tell you what, man, that is going to be a fascinating game.
Yes.
Might be a lot of points scored. Daniel Stratford, BHP Greer. Another test for Greer. That is going to be tough. Let's see what else before we wrap up the show. Abbeville, Powdersville might be a decent game. Christchurch has Asheville School St. Joe's Chapman. I'll tell you what, man, it's like we just talked about with Big Kev. We saw him last week. St. Joe's is good. They scored 40 points last night over Cardinal Newman. I mean, they're going to be really good this year. Broome Chesney, that'll be a lot of fun next week. A rivalry there. Fairfield Central Union County. 96 Ware Shoals and Spartanburg Christian playing Whitmire. A lot of good games next week. And we cannot wait. Obviously, you can follow us on Twitter during the week. We'll talk about high school football a few times during the week as well on Wire to Wire. And we will be in Powdersville, Alex, coming to a city near you next Saturday morning. We appreciate you being a part of the program. Want to say thanks to Ben Pittman back in the Ingalls Markets Studios producing the show this morning, doing a fantastic job, and say thanks to Founders Federal Credit Union as well as your local Ingalls Market for hosting us each and every Saturday morning. We will see you next Saturday in Powdersville. He's Alex Guest. I'm Cole Bryson, and this is The Fan Upstate.
Got a question or comments? Call 844-FAN-PHONE. Text